Welcome back to the Mekanism tutorial. Today we'll be covering Obsidian components, the Atomic Disassembler, and the Digital Miner. So now that you've established an ore tripling setup, or maybe you're still with ore doubling, you're ready to move on into some more advanced components and maybe replace some of your old early game gear. The ultimate tool and mechanism is called the Atomic Disassembler. Forget any of your old Paxels or other tools, because believe me, this thing puts it out of business. I mean, look at it. It's pretty awesome looking, I'd say. So let's go ahead and take a look at the recipe. I mean, looking at it, nothing looks too hard. I mean, we know how to make enriched alloys, we know how to make energy tablets, but atomic alloy, refined obsidian ingot, what is any of this? Let's take a look at those things. Because after all, those are the late game mechanism components. We'll need to advance to these in order to make some of the things we'll feature in this video and beyond. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. Let's start off by looking at these refined obsidian components. We'll need to locate some obsidian dust, which we can simply get through putting obsidian through an enrichment chamber. I already got some because I'm in creative mode, so we're going to go ahead and put that into a metallurgical diffuser along with some compressed diamond. If you remember back from the old videos, we don't have to actually use real diamonds for this. We can compress it to make it more efficient. It's worth noting I also sped up this metallurgical diffuser using the upgrades we learned about in the last video, the speed and energy upgrades. And we can see it immediately starts working on some refined obsidian dust for us. This dust is useful on its own, but we're going to go ahead and continue along into the ingot making process. We'll need to use a new piece of machinery called the Osmium Compressor. This machine uses osmium ingots in order to essentially bind dust to ingots. As with any other Mekanism machine, you can upgrade this into a factory and apply upgrades to it as well. If we look at the recipe, we'll notice that's really nothing new to us. I mean, they're just some enriched alloys, some advanced control circuits, of which we learned about in the last video, and a steel casing, and some regular vanilla buckets. Let's go ahead and try out this Osmium Compressor. So we're going to go ahead and put our osmium ingots into this bottom slot, and you'll see it immediately fills up and creates liquid osmium, and we're going to go ahead and put our refined obsidian dust on the top slot. So it's going to start combining those and it'll make the ingot of our choice, which in this case is the refined obsidian ingot. We'll also note this thing is extremely loud. We'll cover what's called a muffling upgrade later. Now it's going to use about 1 ingot per dust, you'll see. So if it finishes up that second one, it creates a new one. Now, for those actually wanting to create a legitimate factory line with Mekanism, I'd actually really not recommend making many of these machines. They don't really have much practical purpose other than making obsidian ingots, and while they do have some other uses, that's pretty much it. We'll cover those uses in a later video, of course. So now that we've actually got some obsidian ingots, we can go ahead and move on into making the atomic alloy. However, before we do that, I want to examine one of the most practical and useful things you can use with your obsidian ingots. You can use them to make a very strong and durable armor, provided you have the mod Mekanism Tools installed, which is an add-on of Mekanism. I personally make a great effort of any playthrough to make this armor almost immediately, as it can outclass just about any other armor in the modded world at this point in the game. It has strong durability, almost double protection of diamond, and not to mention it is enchantable as well. You can make it just about like any other armor you would, just with for a breastplate, for a helmet, just like any other vanilla armor like iron, gold, or diamond. So let's go ahead and examine the creation of atomic alloy. It's pretty much just an extension of the reinforced alloy, but instead of using diamond, we're going to go ahead and use the obsidian dust that I mentioned earlier. We're going to go ahead and skip to actually just using a compressed obsidian. As with any of the other dust, you can compress it and it becomes much more efficient. Just stick it in there and voila, you have an atomic alloy. So now we can actually make the atomic disassembler. Let's go ahead and examine some of its features. There are multiple speed options to the disassembler, of which we can trigger by pressing shift and right click while holding the disassembler. So we can shift into normal speed, and that's about a normal mining pace. If I go back into survival, that would be helpful. Go there. It's about a normal mining pace, you can see. And I can go to slow mode, which, as stated, it's pretty slow, pretty good for precise building projects, I suppose. And then finally, the actual useful part of this tool, the fast mode. It can almost instant mine just about anything. And lastly, perhaps one of the most useful features of this disassembler, we can shift into vein mode, which can chop down entire trees and and mine entire veins, like that. Or like that. I mean, this is cool and all. I mean, it's pretty fast, but what if I don't want to mine anymore? I mean, after all, I figured out how to make obsidian ingots and make all this atomic stuff. I mean, there has to be a better way to get ores. Look no further than the digital miner. The digital miner is a machine that can automatically harvest ores and just about any other block we specify and put them into a chest for us. This is not an easy road and is certainly not cheap when we examine the recipe. We're introduced to a barrage of new materials that we suddenly have to take a look at. Some of these resources are straightforward to produce, like the logistical sorter or the teleportation core, while others, like the robot, are pretty difficult to make. So let's take a look at the easy parts first. I mean, the logistical sorter should be pretty easy to make, only involving a little bit of iron, a circuit, and a piston. We can easily make 2 of these. Slightly more involved than that is the teleportation core. It involves a diamond, 2 atomic alloys, which we learned how to make previously, some lapis, and some gold. This will take a little bit of time to make the teleportation core. Now, this core is actually used in multiple other recipes in Mekanism, but we're going to go ahead and only look at it for now. I mean, if we look through all of these, it can be used for lots of different things, which we'll examine, of course, later. That, of course, being the teleporters. This is an important feature of this mod, but we're just going to look at it for the miner, as I said. Lastly, the robot. The robot is a somewhat expensive component of the digital miner, involving a personal chest seen here, some obsidian ingots, an atomic alloy, steel, and some 2 energy tablets. It does serve an actual purpose, though, as a little robotic buddy, seen here. It can follow you around, pick up items for you, and serve as a furnace, anvil, chest, crafting table, and girlfriend if you're desperate enough. You can charge it on a charging pad seen here. If you push it on here, it'll start charging, and it can be quite obnoxious, so I suggest turning off your sound if you do want to use this. Charge pad recipe is pretty simple, just involves some pressure plates, some steel, and an energy tablet. Also, it is worth mentioning that I'm using all the machines today underneath a creative energy cell, that's why I don't need a power cell. And as we see, I can actually stand on it too, and it will charge anything in my inventory that needs to be charged. As seen here, my Atomic Disassembler I spawned in and started charging on it. But let's go ahead and continue along our path to gloriness, which of course is the digital miner. So now that we've got the logistical sorters, teleportation cores, and the robot, we can go ahead and make the digital miner, just with some atomic alloys, a circuit, and a steel casing, and voila, you have a digital miner, and of course, welcome to the Mekanism Elite Club. When we place the digital miner, we'll realize it takes up 9 blocks of space, so be prepared to dedicate quite a bit of room to this thing. It's also very power hungry as well, especially when you upgrade it, so be prepared to have a good source of energy. Perhaps a field wind generators will assist in this. However, we're not really going to get any use out of this thing. I mean, there's not really much to, well, mine here. It's a super flat world, so we'll need to go somewhere else to really show this thing off. Ah, this looks like actual Minecraft. I mean, of course, we wouldn't be complete without the huge wind turbine setup. Let's actually use the digital miner now. If we open it up, we'll see quite a few buttons here, one of which being a start button and a config button, which we see first. Now, we could press the start button, but nothing happens because we haven't actually told it what to mine for us yet. We can press that, and we'll press reset, and then we can go to config options. When we go in here, we can see that we have the ability to set a range of where we want it to mine to scour the earth for resources. For example, I could put 30 in here, and now it's going to look for a radius of 30 blocks around the miner, which you can press this button, and it will visualize that for you, which, of course, it starts down there because we're looking at 60 right now. We're at Y60. So we could go here and put 120, and now it's going to look up to the skybox. If we hit new filter, we can actually tell it what to mine. Let's go ahead and take a look at the ore dictionary filter first. This will allow us to define ores based on their ore dictionary properties. The ore dictionary is essentially just a big library in most modded Minecraft packs that will allow mods to communicate with each other and say, hey, you have a copper ingot, and my mod also has copper. They're both the same copper. They're different blocks, but they do the same thing. Mekanism steel often does this at times, and most of the Mekanism ores will do this as well. Now, most of the ore dictionary names you can probably just Google online, but I'll show you how to do it sometimes. Let's say you wanted to mine iron. You're going to do ore, which is your prefix, and then iron in that exact way. and we'll have iron set, and it will look for any type of iron in the ground. Let's say I wanted to find some copper, or copper. And this will examine the ground for any type of copper ore that you might have in your mod pack. Now let's look at the item stack function. This will allow us to mine items or around it that we actually specify ourselves. For example, if we wanted to find some obsidian to make some more obsidian ingots for that sweet obsidian armor, we can go put a piece of obsidian inside by left clicking on this slot right here, clicking save, and now it's saved in. So now that we're actually ready to use our digital miner, we can press start. As you can see, it's going to start putting the ore inside of the inventory, and without any speed or upgrades, it can be pretty slow, but as a general reminder, that will increase your energy output, and believe me, this thing is a sucker of energy. Now, if you didn't want to have it to go to the internal inventory, you can send it to the back output, which is right here. It's a very appropriately placed output slot if we, well, look at it. Put a chest in the back of it, and while it won't start outputting here yet, we have to press the auto eject button, which is right here. So now it's going to eject any ores it gets from its internal inventory into an inventory we can place at the back. You could also put a pipe there if you wanted to have a more advanced sorting system. In this menu, we'll also see that we have a silk touch option, but if we press that, we're going to use much more energy than before. Almost timing that by 6. Now that we're actually done using the digital miner, you can press stop and it will stop. And if you wanted to go and edit your configuration, go to reset, click that button back. Thanks guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, please leave it a like and leave a comment explaining what you liked. And if you didn't like it, go ahead and dislike it and tell me why you didn't like it. Thank you all also for the 100 subscribers. I mean, after all, it took me only 4 years to get, but nevertheless, it's a huge goal. I'm really glad I'm making these content. Now that I've got some extra free time in my life, I'm going to be making lots more videos, including this series. Thanks for watching as always, and be sure to click subscribe and click the little bell icon or whatever it's called to see when my videos come out. And as always, I'll see you later.